They were lucky to escape with their lives.
For 10 centuries, it has waited.
Janet Bates, sure she's the queen of horror films. She's fantastic. Not because of Alan Cunningham, though. He's no director. Wait till she works with me.
It's wrong for you to be thinking about Janet Bates day and night. Why don't you be happy just driving the cab? I make baked macaroni.
His performance is by far the best.
This is Roping Rona on the scene. The hottest ticket in town is an invite to the private soiree producer Brett Bates is throwing tonight to honor his star and once upon a time wife, Janet Bates. Janet is said to be a front runner for Best Actress for her chilling performance in Scream, the smash horror flick.
Alan, I swear he was dead. I know. I've seen enough fake blood to know the real thing when I see it.
Okay, you've had a really bad shock.
Hey, wait a minute. Aren't you Stanley Klein, the director?
Yeah,
Of Caller in the Night? Right there. It was disgusting. It made me sick. It made everybody sick. You should be allowed to make films like this, Stanley.
Who is it?
Please don't be frightened. I won't hurt you. But I just want to talk about the film.
Who are you? Get out, please. Get out. Help me. He's trying to kill me. He's after me.
Hot damn, that's Janet Bates.
Benny,
What is it, Ma?
you got a joint?
Hi, I'm Spice Williams Crosby from Fatal Games, and you are listening to Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back to the Hysteria Continues, and we're up to episode 89, and we're off for a jaunt to splash, fountain water over our boobies like Jane Mansfield in Cannes, in France, a little bit later in the last horror film. And have we lost somebody?
Yeah, he lost me for a start.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Nathan.
It's going to be one of those shows.
I heard the entire of the intro, and then you, after Spicely Williams Crosby disappeared.
That's what I heard as well.
Okay, well, let's just stop. Right, and we are back. It's going to be one of those shows, and I'm sitting on a very squeaky chair. It's not me chuffing. Can you hear it?
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah. It's not that. I've heard squeaky air.
Oh, have you? Okay, yeah. Well, fair enough. But it's going to be one of those shows. As you know, sometime we are held hostage by Skype. So if you hear the infamous ping pong going, then it's probably somebody shooting off somewhere. So, but hopefully we're going to carry on like true professionals we are. And we are, as I said, we're off to Cannes for the Joe Spinell, Carolyn Munro extravaganza that is the last horror film. We're also going to do a very controversial top three. Top threes are back, at least for this week, and it's top 3 red herrings. And I know somebody has something to say about that.
Yeah, Nathan.
Yes, well, we'll come on to that a little bit later. But before we do, in time-honoured tradition, we haven't recorded for about 3 weeks, so we've probably got quite a lot. We got a lot of feedback a little bit later in the show, but let's have a little talk about what we've been watching recently. So, Nathan, anything of note?
No.
No? You've not seen anything in 3 weeks?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, right. Well, as it's going to be a long show, this could be a short segment. But, Joseph, how about you?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I went to see with Nathan and Greg, so he's obviously seen something, Ouija, the Michael Bay produced Platinum Dunes film about a Ouija board.
I hear it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's well, I think Nathan liked it a little more than I did. I just thought it was bland, boring, just another one of those evil spirit movies that seems to be coming out left and right these days. I don't know. I just didn't really enjoy it. Everyone looked the same. Their personalities were just interchangeable. It wasn't particularly stylish or anything. Just kind of bland by the numbers. So, well, there you go. There's for that.
What about Nathan? Have you got anything to add to that?
I liked it a little better than him.
It's a PG-13 horror movie, isn't it? It's just kind of a quick Halloween cash-in, as in the season rather than the film.
Yeah, that would be your correct assumption there, Justin.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't bother going to see it. It came out here around about the same time, but I didn't bother. Did you, Erik?
No, I was too busy hanging out with you and being bullied in Manchester.
Yes, of course. Yes. Well, we'll come on to that a little bit, won't we? When we get to you, Erik, and you can tell us about how wonderful it was to finally meet me. Joseph, anything else?
You're so full of yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a couple more. I finally saw Halloween on the big screen. Of course, I've seen Halloween. Of course, I've seen Halloween. I think that guy that was in that other movie.
Oh yeah,
pretty good actor. Pretty good actor. Yeah. Of course, I've seen Halloween a million times, so I'm not really going to talk about it. But it was a good theater experience. I'm glad I finally got to see it on the big screen.
How did it work with an audience? Did the audience respond to it? Were they laughing, or were they?
Well, it is kind of middle of the road. I mean, a few people, you can hear them kind of gasp at specific points in the film, and a couple people were laughing. That's kind of par for the course with a lot of these younger audiences. But when we were leaving, we overheard someone was talking about the Rob Zombie versions. Like, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is just so excellent. And we were just kind of, chuckling at the audacity that someone would think that.
That is, yes, that's a certain case of mental illness, I think there. But yeah, no, they keep on putting it out over Halloween, but I would have gone to see it, but I had to see Erik instead. So, but
that's pretty scary in and of itself.
It was an experience. But anything else, Joseph?
Yeah, one more. I saw the found footage Bigfoot film Exists by the Eduardo Sanchez from the Blair Witch Project.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's really short and kind of to the point. It's only like 80 minutes long. I enjoyed it. I didn't really much care for the characters. They're kind of dumb. They did everything wrong that, you would not do in a situation like this, of course. And I don't know, they just seemed like a bunch of frat guys that I couldn't really identify with. But the Bigfoot action stuff is just excellent, and it's well handled. And whereas in a lot of these found footage films, they kind of hide the threat from everyone. You get lots of good, Bigfoot action in this. So a marginal thumbs up. I wouldn't say it's great. I probably, it's not something I would want to go back and watch over and over. Like a lot of these found footage films, they're just good one-time watches, maybe twice. But I enjoyed it, for what it was.
Okay, I've not seen that. Anyone else seen that one?
No.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you, Joseph. Anything else?
No, that would be it.
Okay. Well, Erik, how about you?
I saw a film called Coherence. Now, this is a very low-budget time warp kind of movie, so I think it might be something that Joseph might be interested in. It plays kind of like a variant on Triangle. There's a group of middle-aged people who get together for a dinner party on a night when a comet is passing over the Earth, and sort of strange things happen to occur. The power goes out, and two of the group travel to a nearby house to look for some assistance, but find that it's exactly the same house that they left and is populated with doubles of themselves.
No, wait a minute. Isn't that also known as Plus One?
Is it? I'm not sure, actually.
Yeah, because that sounds exactly like the plot for Plus One.
It's from 2000. I think it's from this year, 2014.
Let me look that up, because if that's the same movie,
too. Have you seen it? If it is,
yeah, Plus One. I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, they find a book in the car, and that's one of the sort of the big sort of plot points, or maybe 20 minutes into it. Does that make any sense? Ring any bells? Anyway, it's a kind of more of a Twilight Zone-y tale than it is a horror tale. It's all these parallel realities and universes, and it starts out very intriguingly, and it's very intelligently done. But by the end, I was getting kind of confused, and I felt kind of unsatisfied, by the time the credits were rolling. But considering it was made, I assume for like tuppence halfpenny, it's very well acted, very well made.
Oh, this is a different film, actually.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Plus One has the exact same plot. Basically, these kids are partying, and a power line just kind of, like a comet hits a power line or something like that, and all of a sudden there's like two realities where the same thing is happening at the same time here, and they're just trying to catch up with the other reality. So I have not seen.
Yeah,
I've not seen Coherence, but that sounds exactly the same.
Yeah, I think you might like it. It reminded me of Time Crimes in a way, so that's what made me think that you might appreciate it a bit more than I did. But yeah, a very commendable effort considering it was made for nothing.
I'll have to check that out.
That's intriguing. So, yeah, thank you. Anything else?
Yes, I bought. I remortgaged the apartment and bought the Nightbreed limited edition that came out from Scream Factory.
Okay.
This is the 3 Blu-ray box set. Basically, it has a theatrical cut, the director's cut, and a disc of extras. Now, my history with Nightbreed is that I saw it when it came out in video in 1990, I'm guessing. Then I didn't see it, any version of it at all, until 2 years ago. I saw the Cabal cut that was touring the festival circuit at the time. And this is the director's cut, which is probably about half an hour, maybe 40 minutes shorter than the Cabal cut that I saw. And I watched it back to back with the theatrical version, and from what I'd read, I thought the theatrical version was going to be radically different to the director's cut. But to be honest, I mean, it is 20 minutes shorter, but apart from that, it tells the same story and hits all the same notes. It only has a different sort of tacked-on ending that I think is far more effective than what is in the director's cut, to be honest. So I was surprised by that it wasn't radically different to this revamped one, even though it says there's 40 minutes of different and alternate footage in the director's cut. You know, I watched them one night. I watched one on Wednesday night, one on Thursday night, and there wasn't a huge amount of difference between them. I didn't. Maybe it's just my attention span isn't great. I don't know. I am getting old, but as for the film itself, I do like it. It's no Hellraiser, that's for sure. And it's got an amazing lead performance by Craig Sheffer's mullet, which really dates the movie. There's some dodgy effects as well, but I think it's ambitious. It doesn't quite succeed. It's probably a better film than Lord of Illusions, which was Clive Barker's last directorial effort. It was well worth buying because certainly the story behind the film is really interesting. So it makes the extras are really well worth watching, even if the film is no masterpiece.
Okay, you sure you didn't watch the same version twice?
No, because the second one I watched definitely had a different ending and a better ending as well.
Okay,
and it's got I think Buttonface is the name sort of attached to the David Cronenberg character in the film, and his look is very effective. Yeah, the thing that they kept saying about the theatrical version was that Morgan Creek, the company, tried to market it as a slasher movie,
right?
By making his character more prominent, but his character didn't seem any more prominent in the theatrical cut to me, to be honest. Now there are some great slasher moments in it. There's scenes that have nothing to do with the plot where David Cronenberg's character kills people in a motel, and Clive Barker has put them back into the director's cut as well. And they were scenes he was forced to sort of add on back in 1990, but he's deemed them sort of worthy to go into his new director's cut as well,
I guess,
which is odd. Yeah.
I haven't seen the film. I remember next to nothing about it. I saw it in 1990, which is, 24 years ago.
Yeah.
So I can't remember anything about it at all, so I'll have to get around to watching it again.
No, it is. I mean, as I said, it's no masterpiece. His novel, with Hellraiser, I think the first maybe 80% of that film is absolutely wonderful, one of the best things I've ever seen, and then it devolves into flashing lights and crumbling houses, and that's kind of what happens in Nightbreed and what happens in Lord of Illusions as well. He's very much into his flashing lights and crumbling houses finales, which are a bit of a get out of jail free kind of thing. It's like, I don't know how to end this film, I'm just going to make lights flash and things crumble.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, thank you. Anything else?
I watched Soul Boys of the Western World, which is a documentary about Spandau Ballet, and I'm sure you'll be interested in this because I learned a little fact about you, Justin, when I met you in Manchester, and that is, everyone, Justin used to own a Spandau Ballet record. And Toya makes an appearance in the documentary.
Oh, does she? Well,
very briefly, yeah.
No expense spent. I didn't actually own a Spandau
You did.
Ballet.
You told me you owned Gold, the very best of Spandau Ballet.
No, I didn't own it. I rented it from the library back in the day. You know, you could take out records or tapes from the library, and I took it out for one holiday, so I was stuck with that all for 2 weeks, and the only thing I had. So that I didn't actually buy it, but I did listen to it in about 1982, 83.
Gold, the very best of Spandau Ballet, didn't come out until mid-80s. It was 85 or 86.
Well, it must have been, maybe it wasn't Gold, it was some Spandau Ballet album.
Look at you backtracking.
What?
Just admit you used to love Spandau Ballet.
No,
I don't know why you're so scared to admit it.
I never loved Spandau Ballet.
I know this much is true.
Yes, I know
thank
this
you.
much is true.
Thank you,
as well.
Joseph.
No, this much is true. Then he's saying it for me, for my arguments.
Well, as you can imagine...
Eric, you seem to know too much about Spandau Ballet, actually.
Well,
I love Spandau Ballet, and I'm not afraid to admit it, but I'm not trying to be hip and cool like Justin is struggling every minute, every day to be hip and cool.
I think I'm probably, along with 99.999% of the population...
See, what I want to know
behind
is,
me.
did you two bicker and bully each other in person like this?
No, he bullied me.
No, I did not bully you, Eric. Your friends bullied you, didn't they?
Yeah, well, you encouraged them.
I did not encourage them.
The tickling?
Yes, and then when we got back to the apartment I was in at with my friends, they were like, so would you like a glass of Coke, Inga? Would you like a biscuit, Inga? All of a sudden, they all started calling me Inga.
Just so everyone listening knows, there is video evidence of Eric being tickled and him laughing and shrieking like a little girl.
That was dubbed over.
To make you sound more macho. But it was very nice to meet you, Eric, wasn't it?
It was nice.
It was a fun evening.
It was.
Yes, it was a fun evening. Despite all of that, we had a very nice time. So it was good, and I think we did put a photo up on the Facebook group. So if you haven't seen that, you can see us raising a glass.
And are you allowed to say what you were doing work-wise that morning? Or is that still a secret?
I'm not sure, actually. I was doing some commentary stuff for some upcoming DVDs. I'm not sure if they've been announced yet, so I better hold back. But they should be common knowledge soon. So, but yeah, no. So that was, hopefully all four of us will get together at some point in the near future,
and we can tweak each other's nipples.
Well, we didn't do that this time, Eric, did we?
Well, you wanted to, but I'm too civilized.
Nobody believes that, do they, Eric? Okay, well, is that everything? Is that you?
That is everything.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's run through a few things I saw. I finally saw the Babadook, the recent. Well, actually, sometimes when you go to see a film and you're really excited for it and you really with it, you kind of want it to be good. And The Babadook is a good film, but it didn't really work for me. I've seen two films in the last couple of weeks. The other one was Interstellar, which I won't really talk about, but I thought was rubbish. And it got really, really good reviews, and I thought it was really trite and a bit laughable, and it had a fat Matt Damon in it, and it was just bizarre. Anyway, I didn't really go for... And The Babadook as well, it was... I think if I see it again, I probably like it more because I was expecting it to be what I'd heard. It was like a cross between a kind of an American Horror Story type thing, not like the TV show, but like a American Gothic, although it's set in Australia, and a Japanese horror movie like The Ring or The Grudge. It wasn't really. It was more a kind of document of a woman's mental illness or decline, and her son's decline mentally as well, with some supernatural stuff, but which you're never really sure if it's true or it's all in their heads. And it's actually what it does. It actually goes far more on the gritty social realism and of kind of family violence and bickering and mundane stuff about workaday lives than the horror stuff seems to be not tacked on exactly, but it's a little bit jarring. So it wasn't what I expected, and actually other people I've seen didn't like it either. And I think if I saw it again, I'd probably be more. I would be prepared for what it was, and I might enjoy it more. But I was a bit mystified quite why it had such universal acclaim, like Interstellar. I didn't really understand why there were people falling over themselves to say how wonderful it was, because for my money, a film like Lake Mungo is a much better Australian modern horror movie than The Babadook. And
it doesn't have a silly title either.
No, well, it's kind of the idea of a children's picture book coming to life. The character coming to life from it is good, and it's done pretty well. But I didn't find it in the least bit frightening, and I even found bits of Annabelle not frightening, but certainly spooky and creepy. But I found Annabelle creepier than I found The Babadook, and I think maybe because the people watching The Babadook are watching it, who are people who don't watch other horror movies. It's sometimes you get that audience who will get attracted to a film because it gets very good reviews, like a mainstream critics. So it I know some people love it, and I think it's worth a second watch. But on the first watch, I wasn't massively impressed.
Yeah, I've heard that there's a lot of naysayers for the film now. I mean, when it came out first, it was universal praise, as you said, in all the you know broadsheet newspapers, which is probably a warning sign to somebody like me, which means oh, you're not going to like it. Yeah, but I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, what's the fuss about? Since then.
Yeah, well,
I did prefer Interstellar than you did. I think from what I can gather from what you're saying.
Well, I just thought it was. I kept on looking around, thinking, are people going to start laughing? Because I thought it was.
I know, yeah.
It was some of the, especially the small scale drama stuff that Christopher Nolan just can't do. He just kind of, it was very mundane and just kind of trite. I thought, and I thought Michael Caine gave a really bad performance, and Matt Damon was laughable. I thought he was. It was.
I didn't even. I said, "Is that?" I was thinking, "Is that Matt Damon?" And I was waiting for his name to come up in the end credits because I still wasn't sure at that stage. But it was him.
He was Fat Damon.
He was Fat Damon. But it was a bit bizarre because the whole idea, without giving anything away, but he was, he's basically run out of rations and gone into hypersleep, and he didn't look like someone had run out of rations. He looks like someone had eaten all his rations in one go. But but anyway, it wasn't. It was all right, but it was 2 hours 49 minutes of portentous rubbish, really, and it was just.
I like the spaceships and the space stuff, but I didn't like any of the chatty "I love you, Daddy" stuff.
No, which kind of took up a lot of the film, didn't it? Yeah. But,
is it just growing increasingly difficult for filmmakers to make their films 90 minutes or less these days?
I know, it's ridiculous. I was saying to Justin, I think, on Facebook that Gravity does the whole peril in space thing not really well, and it does it in 85 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And Interstellar needs its sort of 3-hour running time.
I'd much rather.
And basically, it's a remake of Contact. If you've seen Contact, which is another Matthew McConaughey film, it's more or less the same thing.
Okay. Well,
I'd much rather watch Galaxy of Terror or Titan Find, or something like that than. Than Interstellar again. I don't think I'll ever watch that one again. And so anyway, that was that. But a couple of other ones I saw. One I turned off halfway through was a film called Axed, from AXED, Axed.
I think Nathan and Joseph have seen this one, haven't you?
No, that's Axum.
Oh, that's Axum. Sorry.
Yeah. No, this is a British film from a couple of years ago, and it does what the old Dimension, I think it's a Dimension video, or the DVD covers, they used to Dimension Extreme and get low budget movies and give them very stylized covers, and they I think it may even be in our Dimension release, this one, but it looks like a slasher movie, and I thought it was going to be a slasher movie set in an office, and the idea behind it is a man is made redundant, and then he goes off the deep end and kills people with an axe. So it's a playing on the idea of him being axed in his job and then killing people with an axe. But basically what it is he, rather than go around his office block killing people with an axe, what he does is he takes his family to a remote cottage and then sort of stalks and kills them. But I thought it was really badly done, and I found it really tiresome. So in the end, I very rarely turn off movies, but so it's not one I'd recommend at all. Anyone
Nathan,
seen it?
didn't you see that?
I saw it.
Did you? What did you think?
I liked it.
Did you?
Well, there we go.
There you go. I just didn't. It just didn't. Maybe I was in the wrong mood for it, but I just found it. It didn't work for me. The other one, I've seen a few, but the other one I'll say just for brevity is I finally caught up with Camp Dread. I don't think I talked about it last time, but the one with Eric Roberts and Felicia Rose from Sleepaway Camp. It's a kind of new. It's released came out on DVD in the UK a few months ago. This idea of they get a group of teens and take them who are all going to basically plea bargain because they're going to go to prison or juvenile, whatever it is. And as a plea bargain, they go to summer camp, and Eric Roberts playing a director who made his name making the summer camp horror movies in the 1980s, so obviously based on Sleepaway Camp. And Felicia Rose is playing a character who was one of the star of these movies, and they're doing a reality TV show set at the camp, and of course people start dying and disappearing and blah blah blah. You know the score. Except that's what you think it's going to be like, but in fact, it kind of fluffs it a bit. There's some really good stuff in it. Felicia Rose is great in it. It's quite good fun for some of it. The ending's great, the twists, and I liked all of that. The gore is pretty good, but it's really talky. It's not enough horror movie slasher stuff. It's just very talky and long stretches where nothing really seems to happen, which again, to my mind, it's a cardinal sin of being a bit boring, and it should have done. Basically, if you're playing off an 80s slasher movie, you want a murder every 15 minutes. It's not rocket science, but this film doesn't do that, and it doesn't really matter if it goes against the grain, if it does something interesting, but it doesn't, apart from being sandwiched by kind of good, interesting kind of opening 20 minutes and a great closing 20 minutes. But I found the middle section a bit dull, to be honest. Has anyone else seen it?
No,
not yet.
No, Nathan?
No.
No. Okay. I think it'd be interesting to watch it because obviously it's got the credentials, but the reality show thing's a bit old hat as well, isn't it? When you think they were doing it in Halloween 8, how many years ago now? Sort of almost.
Yeah, 12. My Little Eye and.
Yes, all of that. So there's some other bits I saw, but I think, but considering we've got the top 3 coming up and waiting for a certain meltdown. I think we'll cut it short there. So, should we go into our top 3? The top 3 is back. And I know, Erik, the enthusiasm there. But what we've got, somebody, and I can't remember who suggested it, but is top 3 red herrings, isn't it?
Yes.
So, Nathan, do you want to go first with your number 3?
I picked Christopher George from Graduation Day. Because it's Christopher George.
Well, it's always good to pick Christopher George. Talking of Graduation Day, just as an aside, I remember Mary McDonough from Mortuary was selling an original script from Mortuary, signed by her and doodled on, and I think it was signed by Christopher George as well. But I missed out on it on eBay. It went for too much money.
Oh, how much?
Well, it's $55.
Oh,
so I couldn't quite justify spending $55 on that. So, but
come on, you spend that much on wine a day?
Yeah,
well, that's true. But that's
just
one of
stop drinking wine for one day.
Yes, but Nathan, anything else you want to say about Christopher George? Why was he the kind of why do you think he was a good red herring in Graduation Day?
Because he was called George Michaels.
Yes.
He yelled at people a lot.
Yeah. Do you think, because the thing with the red herrings is because these films we've seen so many times now, is that we know who the killer is at the end, don't we? But it's quite difficult to remember a film fresh, isn't it? Because when you first see a film, the idea of red herring is misdirection, isn't it? It's kind of making you think that person is potentially the killer. But when you've seen a film the second time or third, fourth, fifth, sixth time, it's no longer a surprise. So it's but yeah, Christopher George is in Graduation Day was definitely being fingered, wasn't he, as a potential?
He was.
Yes. Anything else you'd like to say about that, Nathan?
Not the first time George Michaels has been fingered.
No, I'm sure. So well, let's have a little as we've.
Now it's really quite easy. You just take a piece and stick it in a hole. Now I'm sure you can do that, can't you?
So. Nathan, anything else you'd like to say about your number 3?
He could have even been from Mortuary because he's kind of a red herring there too.
Well, he is, isn't he? Yes.
He's basically playing the same character.
Yeah,
more or less.
Yeah. Was he a red herring in Pieces? I don't think he was.
No.
He was like the detective. He wasn't the detective in Pieces. Was he?
He was, yes. Yeah. So, okay. Well, thank you, Nathan. Erik. You're number 3.
Yeah, see, this is... Who has a favourite red herring? That's what I just wanted to know. And nobody has a favourite red herring. It's not a topic people would discuss, is it?
Well, I don't know. We're discussing it, aren't we?
Yeah, see, but, I mean...
Erik is the
what
voice
is there
of dissent.
To say?
Well, exactly. Well, Erik, you are the voice of dissent, so let rip.
Well, I'm going for Robert Silverman as Sykes the janitor in Prom Night. Because he is a scapegoat or red herring that I could think of. Okay?
Okay.
Well, he wears horn rimmed glasses that are held together with a Band-Aid. Well, it makes him look particularly sleazy, and he's got greasy hair.
Yes.
He also brandishes that weed whacker thing.
Yeah.
And also he's got, he does kind of like pretty much do everything apart from lick his lips and grab his crotch every time Jamie Lee Curtis goes past, doesn't he?
What, like Michael Jackson?
Well, yeah, well, kind of. But
I thought it'd been funny if, like, when Leslie Nielsen and Jamie Lee Curtis and what's the other Michael Tuff? I thought it'd been funny when he walked by if he held up a saddle.
Oh, Joseph, please.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just trying to spice this up.
Yes, well, it's going to be a short top 3, I think, isn't it?
I think so, and this is
Erik has to.
It's validating my argument. Like Nathan didn't have much to say about Christopher George. I didn't have anything to say about Robert Silverman.
Hey, I came up with a good idea, and you guys ignored me.
What was your good idea?
It was the killers that we have sympathy for.
Yeah, but come up with 12 of them.
Why do you have sympathy? Well, no, you don't have to do a top 3, but like talk about it.
Yeah, okay.
Talk about it.
It don't have to be like a top 3 like every time. I think that we should work in like just, I don't know, a general discussion topic for like 10 minutes.
Considering what our next pick is going to be, I think that would fit well into that episode.
Well, why don't we do it for next episode?
Yeah.
I think that'd be good. That can be Nathan's discussion point or something.
Well, you guys kind of ruined
Sunday
my
with Nathan
meltdown.
Why have you?
I was going to have a crazy Jam Brady meltdown over being ignored, but then you guys are all like, saying we'll do it next time. So I'm like, now I can't melt down, or it won't be sincere.
That doesn't matter. Just melt down
Darn
anyway.
it.
Why didn't you have a meltdown off against Erik?
I would win.
Well,
No,
exactly.
I was going to say, God, it's never about me. It's always Justin, Joseph, Erik.
Well, we're far too reasonable, aren't we? But I think we should have.
You should be more unreasonable.
Okay,
and help
we'll
me
try.
out.
We'll try, but we'll do that next time. And I think maybe we could do a Christmas meltdown between Erik and Nathan. I think that would be fun.
And I also have to say, apologize to the listeners for not speaking as much so far. I'm very, very, very hungover.
Yeah, I know.
Are you?
Yes. He sent us a message last night saying, I don't have any marijuana, but I'm drinking quite a lot of alcohol, or something like that.
I can't believe I wrote that, but yes,
I know.
I did write that.
I can't believe Erik said it.
Welcome to Justin's world, Nathan. Every day is a hangover in Justin land.
I don't know how you do it, Justin. I can't stand this feeling.
You should have seen him.
You've been drinking straight nonstop for 40 years. Hangovers tend to go away, don't they, Justin?
No, I don't. Well, I don't drink during the week, so this is misnomer. This idea that I'm permanently drunk.
Saturday.
Sorry,
Saturday is during the week.
Well, a weekday, not a weekend.
You smoke a lot as well.
No, I haven't smoked anything for ages. But Nathan,
that Saturday night, you were disappearing out of the pub for a smoke every 5 minutes.
Well, not every 5 minutes.
Well, it was.
Your friend corrupted me.
Yeah.
But we're
Justin,
talking about Nathan.
do I have to send you a picture of a black lung?
I've seen some black lungs. But,
and diseased liver as well.
Let's talk about Nathan's liver. How much did you drink last night, Nathan?
I don't know. There comes a point when you don't remember.
Oh,
Did someone have to pick you up off the street, carry you home, and carry you up the stairs?
No, I haven't. See, I haven't drank in it's been years since I've probably drank any alcohol because I don't like it. But other options that I normally partake in were not available. So I had a rough week and I decided to drink instead.
Okay. Well, welcome to the club. So anyway, this is kind of the hungover show. I'm a little bit I'm not too bad actually today. What?
I'm just a little bit hungover. That's kind of like normal.
Well, not really. No, I've got a sore throat and I've got a cold, so I haven't been drinking very much because that's why I'm a little bit hoarse. But
Jamie Lee Curtis joke.
No,
well, it's a good thing we postponed the shoot today, then, Nathan.
Well, I wouldn't have drank if we were going to do the shoot as well.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Well, I'm now confused. Where were we up to? We've just done
Joseph
Erik
and yourself have to give your number threes.
Yeah, Joseph.
Okay.
Your number 3, please.
Ooh, I'm so excited. Tell me, Joseph, your number 3.
Yeah, my number 3 is Harry Forbes from All American Murder, and the reason I know you've probably never seen it. It's early '90s college slasher film with Christopher Walken. It's actually quite entertaining, but I picked Harry Forbes because he's the typical handyman who walks around giving glances right into the camera, and he even goes to various dorm rooms of the college girls sniffing their panties. And so they obviously want you to think he's this perverted, murderer, when obviously it's not going to be him, because it never is. But that's why I picked him, because he's a dorm hopping panty sniffer.
Well,
there's
there you
an
go.
interesting reason.
Yes. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Joseph. I don't know if I can top that, but I'm going to go for my number 3 is going to be Crazy Ralph from the original Friday the 13th and Friday the 13th Part 2. I guess then this comes back to the original point. See, Erik, there is something to talk about. Is that when you first watch a film, I saw Friday the 13th originally back in about 1982, so I can't remember. I can remember actually watching it then, but I can't remember if I thought Crazy Ralph was a red herring. But if you watch the film objectively, because you don't know who the killer is, then the only crazy person in the original Friday the 13th that you know about is Crazy Ralph. And he keeps on popping up and saying, "You're all doomed, you're all doomed." And I seem to remember when I first watched it thinking he must be the killer because it's too obvious. So anyway, that's my see Erik. There's lots to be said, isn't there?
Yeah, that was exciting. Thank you.
Oh, Erik, you little fucker.
Oh my God! Did anyone else hear that bullying?
I heard that.
Yeah.
What?
I can't believe it.
What?
Oh
God,
God.
Have a little sniff of your salts, Erik.
Yeah.
Is that the first time you've ever cursed, Justin, on the show?
Yeah, I think it must be.
No.
No. I think it's warranted, though, wasn't it, Erik?
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Just because I'm speaking the truth.
Well, Erik, will it
at
make
least we get cat flush in the toilet now.
Exactly. Will it make it more exciting if you have... Okay, Erik,
Yes,
take it away.
Who?
You.
Huh?
No, it's
What?
Nathan's turn.
Oh, is it? Sorry, Nathan. Okay.
I forgot who my second one was. It was John Hammett from The Dorm That Dripped Blood, and I picked him because I felt bad for him because he lives in the dorm that dripped blood, and they're tearing down the dorm that dripped blood, and he's upset because they're making him leave his home, the dorm that dripped blood, and at the end he even tries to save a girl.
From the dorm that dripped blood.
Yeah, from the dorm that dripped blood. He tries to save her, and he doesn't succeed because she thinks he's the killer, and that really sucks for him.
They could have nicknamed that film or changed the name to The Perm That Dripped Blood, couldn't they? Because he has doesn't he have a really frizzy hairdo in that?
Yeah,
he does have frizzy hair. Yeah,
Leo Sayer.
Leo Sayer.
Yeah, Leo Sayer.
And you can't trust anyone with hair like that.
No, definitely.
Poor
not.
John Hammett. I like his name too.
No, but that's a great red herring. So even hungover, Nathan, you say you're still a professional.
Still very professional.
I try to maintain my professionality.
So professional, he almost forgot what it was.
Well, unlike some people I could mention. Erik, it's your turn next. Would you like the cat?
I want the cat. Yes, my big number 2 is Patch Mackenzie in Graduation Day, the second red herring of that film we've had today. Mainly because of her insane, over-the-top red herring performance when she meets the gymnast in the woods and she says, "My sister had eyes like yours. She's dead now."
And that girl's reaction was the reaction any normal person would have in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gee, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Gotta run.
Yeah.
Gee whiz, I'm sorry about your sister. Bye.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's a good one, Erik, isn't it?
Yeah, but is there much to say? I don't know.
Well, we've got a lot to fit in later, haven't we?
What did you think of Patch Mackenzie's fashion choice?
Dressed as a soldier or dressed as military?
Well, I'm thinking towards the end in the white.
Oh, it's okay. Her heels weren't that practical for running away from the killer in, though.
No,
which is why she falls over all the time.
But in her defense, she thought the killer was already dead.
Yeah, true.
I mean, she didn't realize, that.
And there's another killer with him.
That's true. What about your top 3 perms in slasher movies?
Yeah.
Top 3 perms.
Erik would like that one.
See, Erik, you'd like that, wouldn't you?
There's a top 3 I'd be on board with.
My top would be what's her name from Innocent Prey?
Oh,
PJ
yeah.
Souls.
PJ Souls.
PJ Souls.
Now, that's a perm you
in
could write home about.
Exactly.
She actually talked about that when I met her.
Did she? What did she say?
Yes, like she mentioned like that god awful perm she had in that movie.
How about the Byron character from Rush Week, the best friend? That's a perm.
Well, isn't his a perm mullet?
Yeah, the perm mullet. Yeah.
The nerdy guy who gets his winkle out in pieces, doesn't he have a perm as well?
Yes, I think so. We could do top 3 hairdos or hair don'ts.
God, top 3 hair don'ts. That would actually be kind of funny. You need to come up with pictures though, so people online can see what we're talking about.
Just point them to the Facebook page.
Okay. Well, if you want to hear our top 3 hair don'ts, let us know. So, where are we up to? Is it
Joseph's number
Joseph?
2? Joseph's going to do a number 2.
Oh yeah, here we go. Joseph in after this.
All right, my number 2 is Principal Hembry from Scream. And it's kind of genius making the Fonz a red herring. I like the way he just kind of wields those scissors around at those 2 unruly students. And he's constantly giving the glances into the camera like, ooh, he has to be the killer. He's snapped and he's sick of all these hip, holier-than-thou teenagers, so he's going to kill them. Of course, obviously, he's not the killer. He's the atypical red herring. But and he gets kind of, you don't really get to see his, I mean, you see his death scene, but you don't get to see his aftermath. He gets a kind of a very, it's not fair. He gets hung. He's hung.
Oh, Joseph.
Yeah.
I'm so used to saying, oh, Erik.
Well, it's just in a long time ago, we were talking about Scream in some capacity, and you said he's hung, just the way you said it.
And we were all like, way.
Yeah, way. But no, I think he did a good job of kind of glancing into the camera all sinister-like and making you think he's going to be the killer. And maybe he should have been the killer. The Fonz as the murderer. That would have been interesting.
That would have been very postmodern, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And me. Well, I thought we couldn't let a top 3 about red herrings go past without the ultimate red herring slasher movie, which is the very first movie we covered on the podcast, and of course that's Happy Birthday to Me. And that has more red herrings than pretty much any film any slasher movie I can think of. I think probably my favourite one is Jack Bloom playing Alfred, who when he has a plaster cast. Well, he has a model of Leslie Donaldson's head in his makeup room where he does special effects for I can't remember what the reason is actually why he has a model of Leslie Donaldson's head in there.
So he could be a red herring. That's exactly why.
Yes, but that whole film, it's like there's that bit, isn't there, with David Eisner plays Rudy up in the clock tower with Melissa Sue Anderson, and he's kind of starts talking in a kind of weedy, kind of scary voice, doesn't he? And chasing around the clock tower for no particular reason whatsoever. So that film is chock full of red herrings. And interestingly, Giallo Ciao Ciao, the All Giallo podcasts, are actually doing Happy Birthday to Me in a few weeks' time, I think.
Ooh, controversial.
Well, if they're an All Giallo podcast, why are they Happy Birthday to Me?
Well, that's a good point, but you have to tune in to find out. I think they've done a few. They did Frenzy a couple of weeks ago, and they're kind of broadening stuff out to look at films that may have been influenced by the Giallo. And Happy Birthday to Me obviously got a Black Glove Killer. It's kind of, you could say it does have some traits from the Giallo. So I think it'd be interesting to see what they make. Kind of
the same as saying, why did we cover Predator?
Yeah,
when we're a slasher podcast, so
or because we're a bit mental.
What's that?
Or
one
the
movie
Sadist, or
Terror at Red Wolf Inn.
Terror at Red Wolf Inn.
Yeah, well,
or why are we going to be covering Terror at 10 Killer?
Wait till you hear my next controversial pick.
Ooh, Je m'appelle intrigued.
I actually have 2 of them.
My Dinner with Andre.
Yes.
Yes.
Soul Boys of the Western World.
No.
No. Okay, well, that was Happy Birthday to Me. So, but now, and I would do a drum roll if I had one, and I don't. So I'll just do a slow clap for number one. So, Nathan, what is your big number one?
It's Orville Ketchum from Sorority House Massacre 2 and Hard to Die. He, in both movies, tries to save the girls in lingerie, but they always think he's the killer. And in part 2, they shoot him up with a machine gun, throw him off a building, and he still tries to save them. But, he really wants to rescue them, but instead they beat the crap out of him over and over and over again to the point of stabbing him, strangling him, And he's just a good guy. He sits there, eats sandwiches made of raw meat, and wears a nice plaid shirt.
He is the kicking boy, isn't he, of those movies? But it's quite funny, isn't it?
He does scream Hochstetter because, Hochstetter's the actual killer, not Orville Ketchum.
Okay. Excellent. Right. Okay, we're having a few Skype issues with this podcast, and we keep on losing each other. But hopefully it's not affecting sound quality too much, or if anything. So, but it's making things a bit confusing. So I'm losing track of who is up next.
It's me.
Oh, it's Erik, of course.
Me for my amazing number one.
Come on, Erik. Woo! Come on.
It's Paul Smith as Willard in Pieces.
Yay!
Because he stands near two chainsaws that are covered in blood and shit. And he does some gurning and stuff, and he's super dreamy.
Oh, Erik.
What? You asked my favourite red herring is my favourite red herring.
Okay, right.
Deal with it.
Okay, no, well, we are dealing with it. We deal with it every week, Erik. Has anyone got anything to say about Paul Smith?
Well, I knew why Erik picked him.
Mm.
Yeah, me too. I like the scene where he's kind of laughing and cleaning his chainsaw.
Mm.
Yes, I bet Erik loves that scene.
I do.
Yeah,
yeah.
Clean my
it's kind of phallic.
Yeah. My chainsaw needs a ruddy good polishing if he wants to come over.
So would you take his chainsaw, Erik?
I would.
Right. Okay. Well, enough of this filth. Let's treat this top three with the dignity that we should. Erik.
I like this top three after all. It's got me all excited.
Well, there you go. It's got a happy ending, as it were. So, is it Joseph? Or is it we had... Oh, I'm really confused now.
Joseph, yeah.
It's Joseph.
Joseph, what's your number one?
My big number one is Schultz from Cutting Class. He's the one who walks around with the mop, mopping up blood. And he has that great line that he's the custodian of their fucking destiny. And he actually comes in at the very end of the film. And he's so thrilled, obviously he's not the murderer, but he's so thrilled with the job that the two survivors have done on the killer that he agrees to clean up after their bloody mess, without batting an eye. So he's not only a red herring, but he's very helpful.
Well,
and I like the scene where Brad Pitt tries to get back into the school, and he's like, "I left my math book in the class," and he's like, "School is closed." And he squirts the glass with the Windex. I only wished it would have blinded Brad Pitt, but he was behind glass. Yeah.
Oh well, Joseph, but that is a good number one. Has anyone else got anything to say about it?
He's not dreamy.
No. Well, thank you. How about you, Joseph? You got anything else to say about that?
He's not dreamy, Erik, but he's steamy.
Steamy.
Yeah.
If Orville Ketchum had a big bushy beard, I think Erik would have found my number one to be dreamy.
Possibly. Let's see who Justin's number one is.
Well, my number one is Brad Dourif in his cameo in... Well, you don't find him dreamy, do you, Erik?
No.
No.
Do you find him dreamy?
No. But in Urban Legend, as the creepy, stuttering petrol attendant or gas attendant, in that great opening scene where Alicia... Is it Alicia Witt?
No, it's Robert Wagner's daughter. I can't remember her name.
Natasha Wagner.
That's
it.
Natasha
Wagner.
She's singing Total Eclipse of the Heart.
That's right. It's a film, Urban Legend, I think, is actually a very fun slasher movie. And hopefully, I think it's ripe for rediscovery, really.
Oh, yeah.
Because at the time, we talked about this before, haven't we? Everyone was really ragging on Trent as the term that was thrown about as trendy horror. back in the late 90s. But Urban Legend, along with I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, I think are two of the funnest of the late 90s slashers. But yeah, I thought that was a great opening scene, and obviously he is a classic red herring, although he doesn't stay a red herring for long. You know, he in fact tries to come to the aid of the Natasha Wagner, but as we know, it doesn't end well. So unlike this top three, which has now ended. So Erik, was it as bad as you thought?
No, it actually turned out okay.
Well, there you go. So another happy ending.
Yes.
So I think it's probably time for us to go on to the main attraction, isn't it?
It is indeed. Joe Spinell plays Vinny, a cab driver with dreams of being a major Hollywood producer. Determined to have Jana Bates star in his first film, Vinny follows her to the Cannes Film Festival, where she's busy promoting her latest horror flick. He becomes obsessed with Jana even. He becomes fanatic. Once in Cannes, Fanatic begins to reveal the dangerous and deadly side of obsession, and the stalking begins. And that, although it refers to the film as Fanatic, is the blurb from the back of the recent Blu-ray release in the UK of the last horror film. It is aka Fanatic. Obviously, they just copied and pasted that from some foreign release. It was made in 1982, and this is the third time that Joe Spinell and Carolyn Munro had worked together. Previously, they'd done Star Crash for Luigi Cozzi and Maniac, more famously. And this is a very different film to Maniac, and as we'll discover in the behind the scenes, it was very hastily thrown together, and it shows kind of on screen. It has a sort of a make it up as you go along feel to the film, although I do think it's very enjoyable, and it's far better than it has any right to be when you consider how it was made. In a word, the film is silly. And this becomes apparent from the outset when we meet possibly the worst old lady actress ever to grace the silver screen. I mean worse in the best possible way, though, because she's an absolute hoot to watch. Her name is Mary Spinell, and she's Joe Spinell's real-life mother. And her line delivery, you would have heard it in the intro to the podcast, she's not unlike Edith Massey in the John Waters movies of the 70s, and this is something that Justin points out in his Hysteria Lives review of the film. And then the hairstyles. Have to get onto the hairstyles. We're talking about our top three hair don'ts, and the last horror film is full of them. I mean, both of Jana Bates' love interests sport the most horrible middle-aged blonde hair barnets you're likely to see. Jana herself sports this awful two-tone hair. It reminded me of Heather Langenkamp in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, where she has that streak in her hair. It looks awful. I mean, you combine that with her hilarious makeup. She looks like she was shot with Homer Simpson's makeup gun. It's quite a look.
Had it set on horror.
Yeah, she had it set on horror indeed. Yeah, and there's actually a scene where she has this. She has the horrible hair, too much makeup, and she's wearing a leopard skin leotard. And doing her best blue steel posing as she's in the middle of a fashion shoot, and it's just, or maybe she's smizing, I think you could say, actually, Justin, to quote Tyra, and it's just one of the most hilarious scenes I've seen in a long time, I have to say. And if that's not cheesy enough for you, there's a scene where Joe Spinell projects the image of Jana onto his naked torso and starts writhing around and rubbing himself with orgasmic glee, and he fantasizes about himself wearing a bra and panties, and it just all gets very, very strange and silly. I also love the fact that all these highbrow critics are oohing and eyeing over how wonderful Jana Bates is as she flails around whilst being menaced with a flaming torch. They're all saying, "Oh, she's brilliant. She's the most amazing actress ever," and they deem her somehow superior to Faye Dunaway, Jane Fonda, Julie Christie, and Meryl Streep, who are her fellow nominees in the category of Best Actress at the Cannes Film Festival.
And of course, they don't make cameos, obviously. No.
Actually, in between all the silliness, there are some quite good murder scenes. There's a decapitation, an axe in the back. There's some film within the film, graphic murders. There's a scene where Joe Spinell's character goes to watch one of the films that's in competition at Cannes, and it shows an old-age female pensioner assaulting a young man and removing his eyeball and slicing open his chest in gooey detail. I'd like to watch that film. I'm intrigued to know what it was about. Another great thing about the film is that it actually was filmed during the 1981 Cannes Film Festival, so it's actually quite a nice little time capsule to look at all the billboards and all the posters that are around at the time. You see things like cinema marquees and posters for For Your Eyes Only, which was the new Bond film that summer. which is one of my favorites. Cannibal Holocaust is there. Fascination, the Jean Roland film, gets mentioned. Polyester, speaking of John Waters, there's a poster for that showing somewhere. Interestingly, the film that Janet Bates is there to promote is called Scream. This is, of course, 15 years before Wes Craven's movie. And even more interestingly, there is a real film there that's playing called Stab. And I'd never heard of that, so I looked it up on IMDb. It turns out to be a film that was later retitled called Still of the Night, starring Roy Scheider and Meryl Streep, and actually with a small role in it by Larry Joshua from The Burning. So it sounds like it's how would you describe it as? It's what do they call Scream and all those types of films?
What, slasher movies?
No, they call them postmodern. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for.
Okay.
That's the word I was looking for. And another thing in going in favor of Last Horror Film is it has one of the best opening title songs, which hopefully we'll hear at the end of the podcast. It's Depeche Mode's Photographic, which was from their debut album, Speak and Spell, and it's a nifty little electropop tune, I think. Probably got it on the cheap. I can't imagine Depeche Mode songs are that cheap to purchase for low budget horror films these days. I'm sure the ending of the film will have many people tearing their hair out in frustration. I think it's hilarious, and it's keeping in tone with the rest of the movie. So I'll be interested to hear what you guys think, particularly of the ending, because I'm assuming... Oh, what's all that noise? Is somebody snoring?
That's the dog.
I thought you'd fallen asleep, Nathan. That's some major hangover. Yeah, so for me, this film is it's a superior piece of work to Maniac, which I think is a bit too downbeat for my liking. This is more my cup of tea. It's silly and cheesy and lots of fun, even if it's certainly no classic. So it's a thumbs up from me. It's from the sillier end of the slasher spectrum, but it has a rewatchability factor, I think. So Nathan, before you fall asleep, what do you think of the Last Horror Film?
Well, of course I love it. I mean, it's cheesy, ridiculous, and I like that kind of thing. I was going to mention, if anybody else didn't, I was going to mention that Janet Bates just happened to beat out like some of these top actresses.
I know.
And I'm like, from what I could tell, she's not quite on their level.
That's an understatement. Yeah.
And one thing that's weird to me is the movies that they're watching. Like in the beginning, it's like a woman, is naked in a hot tub and the mysterious killer electrocutes her. And then it says the end. And then in Janet Bates' movie, a man wearing a mask burns her face off. And as she's screaming, the end. I'm like, it doesn't feel like that should be the ending to the movie.
No, I noticed that.
I mean, that doesn't feel like endings.
That's like they've just stuck the end in the middle of a pivotal scene or something.
I know, because I would be like, I'd probably be angry if I watched that and it ended right there. It was like, what, were you missing a last reel or something? I mean, but anyway.
Yeah, but the highbrow critics going, oh, she's brilliant.
Yeah, oh my God, it's so brilliant.
She's getting her face burned off.
See, now, if they had made it like she got her face burned off and like the rest of the movie was her, I don't know, maybe trying to seek out who did it, maybe that, they could have said something about. But I mean, all she was doing was screaming and holding her face. I'm like, I think anybody could do that. But I love some of the death scenes in the movie. I particularly love the scene where she finds the one guy's body. I forget his name in the bathroom.
Brett
and
Bates.
As she opens the door, and as she opens the door and hits his foot and his head falls off into the sink, I thought that was awesome. I love the way that was shot.
Yeah,
that was great. And I really love the idea of a slasher movie set at a film festival. I think they should do it again. Maybe this time a little less hastily put together. Even though I love this movie, you can kind of tell it was kind of just hastily, like, I don't know. It just felt like it was kind of slung together. And I love Joe Spinell's mother in this movie. And I really did. It really did give me visions of Edith Massey from the John Waters movies. I mean, like the delivery of the lines is just hysterical. I mean, even the last line about you got to join. I mean, it's just you can tell they're just like, okay, Ma, this is what I want you to say. All right, you're gonna say it this way. But
she could have made it into Voodoo Massacre 3.
I know
she would have been at home.
If there's a 3, she would have been at home in that, I think. But yeah, I mean, I love the movie. I'm personally, I do like Maniac, so I would rate Maniac above Last Horror Film. But I would find the last horror film to probably be a little more rewatchable, mainly just due to the fact that it's not so downbeat. It's very, it's just very cheesy, and I don't know, you can't take it too seriously. How can you take Joe Spinell rubbing all over himself with a projection of Carolyn Monroe on his chest? How could you take that serious? So, yeah, thumbs up from me.
Well, Justin, can you take it seriously?
Well, no, but I don't think it was intended to be taken seriously, was it? So I kind of definitely watch it in the film in the frame of mind that it was made, which I think is pretty tongue in cheek, wasn't it?
Do you think? I think some of it, deliberate. Some of it, maybe not so.
Well, I think overall it probably was. I mean, it was. Well, it's difficult to tell sometimes, isn't it? With some films, you're thinking, is this tongue in cheek? Like, for instance, when I thought, Slaughter High was tongue in cheek, but when I did the commentary of Mark Ezra, he seemed to be thinking, actually, this was quite a serious horror movie. So unless he's being very dry and droll, it's sometimes a little difficult to check. But there are things I've always enjoyed this film, and it was really good to revisit it on Blu-ray. Obviously, like you say, it's much cheesier than Maniac. I mean, it's kind of it's chalk and cheese, isn't it? It couldn't be more of a different film, really. So this idea of it's a quasi, not a sequel, but it's a sequel with the two main actors from Maniac in this, and so whoever saw Maniac and then saw the last horror film, it would have been quite a surprise, I think, to have seen it. I mean, some of the things that I took away from it is obviously there was it was kind of very exploitative in that type of way that those kind of films are. Like Cannes, I think, probably is full of boobs, but there were just loads of shots of bouncing boobies, wasn't there, on Cannes beach. And I think there's a great shot I've got on The Wild Wild World of Jane Mansfield, the Dick Randall film, who obviously Dick Randall did Pieces and also the French sex murders that we've covered. But he did I think he produced or directed the Wild Wild World of Jane Mansfield, and there's shots of her at Cannes in a fountain throwing water all over her bosoms. And go-go dancing with a band, and so it seems like obviously Cannes, I don't know if it's so much like that anymore. I think it's probably classier now in Cannes, isn't it? But it seems certainly back then it would be, or you would have Lolo Ferrari, that type of thing going on alongside the kind of the more highbrow things on the French Riviera. But I love the fact, as you're saying, that she beat out, Jane Fonda and Meryl Streep for this prize. And also one of the judges, I don't know if you noticed, was it's one of the later actors from Are You Being Served?
No, I didn't notice that.
He was one of the judges, which I thought was quite funny. I love the scene with Joe Spinell talking of red herrings, because obviously Joe Spinell is a kind of the ultimate red herring in this film, isn't he? Which is why it was actually quite an apt top three. But when he goes down to the beach and those girls throwing water all over themselves and teasing him, and he's acting suspicious with pantyhose on the beach, which I thought was quite funny. I also absolutely love the character. I don't think he has a line in it, but he's the one with the boofy hair and moustache.
Oh, I love him. He's on the photo shoot, yeah.
Yeah, the one, he's got like a Village People style moustache. Yeah. And he looks like he's stumbled in from Don't Stop the Music. And he doesn't say any lines, but he's always wearing... he's probably about 45, but he's wearing really bad new wave fashions, isn't he? Like silver trousers and like.
And does he have big dangly earrings at one stage as well?
Yeah. And I thought he's going to have to come into it at some point, but he doesn't. He doesn't get killed or anything, does he? I also love the fact that the killer looks like is wearing a burqa and a fedora, which is quite a combination towards the end. So it's got a mixture, and of course the scene that we haven't really spoken about, but is obviously probably the most famous scene, is the one where Joe Spinell chases Jana Bates' the character Jana Bates through the hotel, and she runs through the streets of Cannes. Because essentially the film was a kind of guerrilla filmmaking, wasn't it? They didn't have a permit to film any of this there, but it was you've got to give them something for their sheer nerve to be able to film kind of a film like that by taking advantage of all these crowds, and obviously they all thought it was a publicity stunt, so it kind of works in a kind of meta kind of way. I thought it was it's a fun. It's not a great movie. It's not the best slasher movie. The tone is a little bit kind of all over the place, really, from the kind of, you say, the kind of John Waters-esque acting of Joe Spinell's mum, which is great, but that kind of silliness kind of jars with some of the other stuff in it. So it's not a cohesive movie, but there's an awful lot in there to love. So that's my tuppence.
Okay, Joseph, what's your tuppence or your 2 cents?
Well, I'm the low man again. You guys have pretty much said everything.
I'm sorry.
The one thing I find humorous about this movie and Maniac is that they have the audacity to think that Carolyn Monroe would be attracted to Joe Spinell. Who would be attracted to Joe Spinell besides Erik?
I'm not attracted to Joe Spinell. Justin.
That's not what you said.
Hardly.
You said he gets your motor running or something like that. But anyway, Justin said something about how they make the main character, which is Joe Spinell, the ultimate red herring, which is kind of fitting. I mean, they go out of their way to make you think he's the murderer when obviously he's not. I had a little issue with who the murderer turns out to be. Now, the decapitation that Nathan was talking about is actually fake, and the guy getting decapitated is the murderer. He set that up as kind of like a film moment to kind of set up the Joe Spinell character. It's been a few weeks since I've watched it, so that's what I got from it. I am correct in that assumption, right?
You are, yes.
Right, but I don't know. I found the movie. It was kind of, it was humorous. I probably prefer Maniac because it's a better made film. But this one's certainly, cheesy enough and entertaining enough. I liked a lot of the running around cans, and obviously they did not have a permit. You can kind of tell because some of the extra, you want to call them extras. Sometimes you can tell when an extra's acting in the background is staged, and obviously this is not staged. If you pay close enough attention, you can see some people reacting to this, like, what's going on here? I do like the grandmother character, and I actually like the whole, we're going to pull back from this film and reveal that this is a film that he's making. Does that whole kind of postmodern thing way before Scream came out, and it has all those coincidences with, the one movie being called Scream and that one movie being called Stabby. It kind of makes you wonder if this was on the watch list of Kevin Williamson when he wrote Scream or not. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to say, and you guys have covered it. So a marginal thumbs up. I guess you could call it rewatchable just because of how silly and kind of how haphazardly it is put together. But like Justin said, it's not a great film, but it's worth at least a one watch.
Justin, did you prefer to Maniac or?
I think it's, as I said, it's like chalk and cheese. I think Maniac is a film I haven't seen for quite a few years, and I need to rewatch it at some point. But I don't know. I think it's until I've watched, because I'm sure we will cover Maniac at some point when we're on the podcast. So I'll reserve judgment, I think, on that.
Well, for what it's worth, I think my favourite Joe Spinell and Carolyn Monroe film is just my love beads again, is Star Crash, believe it or not. I'm just a huge fan of Star Crash. This would be my second favourite. Maniac would be my third. Not that I don't like Maniac. I think it's okay. As I said, it's a bit too downbeat for, watching on a cycle. What's
Star Crash?
Star Crash is a kind of a Star Wars cash-in made in Italy in 1979, and it's really, really cheesy, and it's got really naff special effects, but it's really, really endearing and very entertaining. And David Hasselhoff is in it as well. So,
I just wonder if somebody who hates Star Wars, would they like it?
No, you won't. You won't.
Oh, okay, then probably shouldn't watch it then.
Yeah. So okay, well, we go on to behind the scenes then.
Yeah.
Okay. Although one thing I should say, whenever I watched the last horror film, when I was watching it in these recent weeks, I was thinking about, replace Joe Spinell with Justin and replace Janet Bates with Susie. I think that would work quite well.
Or Erik, I think it may be more you replacing Joseph Spinell and Toya replacing Jana Bates.
No, I think it'd be you and Susie.
I think,
you'd be like,
I think
oh, Mother, I'm going to the London Music Festival to see Susie, and we're going to record an album together, and we're going to win a Grammy.
I think, Erik, if we're talking about people who are a little bit obsessional, I think we both know who is more likely to be the
you'd project the video of Dear Prudence onto your naked torso and you'd be writhing around.
But to be honest, I couldn't do that kind of boob manipulation. I'm not saying you could, but obviously
you are saying I could.
You might be able to, Erik. Well, you're more generously built than me, aren't you?
Hey, this is horrible. This is absolutely outrageous talk.
But you are. We are a different sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because you smoke and it suppresses your appetite.
Well, I think, between the two of us, you'd probably be better doing a soapy tit wank, wouldn't you?
I'm not carrying on this conversation any longer. I'm absolutely outraged and insulted.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Any more background?
No. Okay. Who has background? Hungover Nathan?
Well, this movie is called The Last Horror Film, but it actually is not the last horror film.
That's right, because Nightmare on Elm Street came out after this. Well done.
Oh, speaking of Nightmare on Elm Street, and I don't want to get too far off topic, but this just is bothering me, and I had to bring it up. You said that Jana Bates' hair reminded you of Heather Langenkamp's hair in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why did Heather Langenkamp not dye the gray streak? Like, why would you not dye that to match your hair color?
I know.
Why would you just keep it? I don't understand that. Okay, that's going to bother me now.
It probably looked a bit, I don't know, but she probably quite liked it.
Well, yeah, maybe she thought it was cool. I don't know.
But good call on it not being the last horror film, because I never even thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my tuppence.
Justin, or Nathan, who's the other person? Joseph.
Erik.
Who's the other person?
Yeah.
I have nothing.
Okay. That's a great Whitney Houston song. Justin.
Okay, well, I've got a few bits here. It was the UK DVD was edited, missing some of the violence from the Nightcaller film within a film sequence, which is
this Blu-ray. You mean that we have?
No, the UK DVD.
Oh, sorry.
It was the Blu-ray was uncut, but the old DVD had was missing quite a lot of the old lady eating the young man, as it were, and also chainsaw murder at the end. Apparently, the old Intervision VHS tape, which I've got, was uncut, but I think it was not particularly good print, if I remember correctly. What else is there? The film was renamed as Fanatic in 1983, and I think that's the title it got for like a limited US cinema release, or I might be wrong. And obviously got picked up by Troma and got released, I think, on a Troma disc about 10 years ago in the States, and had the usual wonderful, in inverted commas, Troma presentation and remastering, i.e. nothing at all. Apparently the film won some kind of it won some kind of award. It says the last horror film, a David Winters film, was the winner of the 1982 Golden Scroll Award for Outstanding Achievement. So obviously there wasn't too much competition maybe in that year. Obviously, as we know, Joseph Spinell's mother was Philomena Spaganolo. I can't pronounce it, but anyway, she's obviously his real life mom in the film. And Vinnie Duran's apartment was the same New York City apartment that Joseph Spinell lived in. As we sort of said, it was shot guerrilla style at the 1981 Cannes Film Festival. So apart from that, there's not a massive amount of stuff that I can find on this film, really.
Okay. Well, I have the film was put together with 5 weeks preparation from initial idea to the start of filming, and the script was thrown together in 2 weeks, with the bulk of filming, as you said, taking place in May of 1981, which was during the Cannes Film Festival. An incomplete script. there was an incomplete script when they were filming, as you can kind of tell from the way the film pans out. Director David Winters, who plays Stanley Klein in the movie as well, he had an alleged shady past. And I'm saying alleged because I don't want us to get sued here. This is all information I've got from various sources. I haven't just come up with this myself. He'd been an actor in the past, and he'd been in West Side Story, believe it or not. And during the 70s, he was more famous as being Linda Lovelace's partner. And after they broke up, Lovelace claimed that Winters had abused her. And apparently he also had a criminal past. And there are rumours that the last horror film was made with proceeds from crime. Allegedly. Judd Hamilton, who plays Alan Cunningham, was Carolyn Monroe's husband at the time, and his business partner was David Winters, and that's what set the ball rolling for this film. Winters told Cinefantastique magazine in 1981 that he hated horror films, and his original idea was to use the glamour of Cannes for a romantic film. And it was Judd Hamilton who insisted they cash in on the success of Maniac and make it into a horror movie. David Winters' next project after Last Horror Film was meant to be a sequel to Star Crash. It was going to be called Stella Star versus the Space Pirates. Stella Star being, of course, the Carolyn Monroe character from Star Crash. That now obviously never came to pass. He did go on to direct other movies, such as the skateboard movie Thrashin', which I've never seen, but apparently it stars Josh Brolin and Robert Russler. The copy of Starburst, which is a UK-based science fiction magazine that Vinny is reading at the start, I actually have that copy of the magazine. Back in the day, they used to cover a lot of horror films as well. They don't anymore, really. But if you look at the Starburst, it has a picture of Carolyn Monroe on the front, but just above it, it has something scribbled out, and that's because the art, it mentions the name Carolyn Monroe, and it obviously it's meant to be Jana Bates. But they're actually, in a weird way, there's actually an article about Last Horror Film in that magazine that Vinny is reading, because that must have been a pickup shot maybe done a year later or whatever. But in the article, some scenes are spoken about that never made it into the film. Apparently, the killer was supposed to put a piranha in the swimming pool of the castle that Jana goes to towards the end of the film, hoping that the piranha would gobble up Jana. But instead, two unexpected guests go for a swim and end up becoming the piranha's dinner. Also, the original killer was intended to be Vinny all along. He was supposed to get his comeuppance when a prop from his Loves of Dracula set was knocked over and accidentally impales him. And also, the character of Brett Bates originally was supposed to have his two legs sawn off as he was standing up, and Joe Spinell was supposed to swing the chainsaw across both his knees, and he was supposed to fall to the ground onto both stumps. That was never made it into the final film. It won another award. Justin, you said that I have some award for best film. It won best cinematography at the 1982 Sitges International Film Festival in Spain. But this is the unbelievable thing about the Last Horror Film and the awards season. It was nominated for best international film at the Saturn Awards, which is a horror and science fiction award ceremony. In 1983, it lost out to Mad Max 2 in the end. But the thing that just flabbergasts me is Mary Spinell was nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the same award ceremony, believe it or not. She lost out to Zelda Rubinstein in Poltergeist. But how on earth she ended up on the nominees list is beyond me.
Well, it's probably tongue-in-cheek, I would have thought.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like when people, listen to Toya, and you can hear something, and we hear something different.
You're just pure evil.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is anything else?
No.
We've done very well, actually, digging up. But I found a lot more than I could find. So
well, I have old Starburst magazines, as I said, from that era, and they gave it a lot of coverage for some reason.
Starburst?
Yeah.
Like the candy?
No, magazine.
Oh, I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Yeah. No, it's a UK magazine. Yeah. It's still going, but it's very much sci-fi only these days, really. So it's it's all Star Trek, Star Wars, and
okay. Well,
a bit boring. Sense. You wouldn't like it, Nathan.
Yeah.
No. Actually, speaking of that, the Star Trek movie was on the other night when I came home, and I think Wes was watching it, and I was like, "Oh my God, turn that garbage off, please."
Oh, we know who wears the trousers in that house.
He did not turn it off. So.
Well, there you go.
Well, now we know who wears the trousers in that house. I'm not switching it off.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Is that everything?
That's everything I think I have in terms of about behind the scenes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that was probably a good time to wrap that up. So, thank you, Erik. That was a good job.
Thank you.
So, So shall we move on to... Let's play how to get in contact with the show. In fact, actually, we have a cavalcade of feedback for you now. So if you would like to write in, and we'd like you to write in or phone in, this is how to get in contact with the show.
Be sure to search for and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at THC_podcast. Our voicemail is 858-233-9281. And you can email us directly at the.hysteria.continues@gmail.com.
Okay. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first. I've got 3 here. Okay. This one is from Killer Clown. I don't know if he's from outer space or where, but he says, "Hello, friends. First off, I want to say that about a month ago, I viewed The Prowler for the first time, and it led me down a road where I now want to watch every Golden Age slasher I can get my hands on. Thanks to your book and podcast," that's Justin's book, I'm assuming, not my book, Confessions of a Sexy Slut, "I'm getting my fix and purchasing some real gems. I'm having a blast watching these films for the first time. I do have a question. Forgive me if you've answered this already, as I've only started listening to your show. What are your thoughts on movies, specifically horror movies, that are shot digitally as opposed to film? I personally get a lot more enjoyment out of any movie shot on film. The viewing experience is immediately elevated, in my opinion. How about you? I look forward to your response. Thank you, Killer Clown." Well, anyone want to chime in on shot on digital?
I love film. I mean, film is probably my preferred way to watch a film, you know, because it's called film. But I mean, I don't snub digital at all. I mean, you know, for a lot of filmmakers out there, I mean, who can afford to shoot on film anymore? I mean, only for making a big Hollywood production, I guess.
Yeah. We were talking about Interstellar earlier, and that's doing the rounds, being projected in about 35mm and digitally at the moment. Did you get that in Bristol, Justin?
No, they've got something called X Plus at the cinema. They've just opened up, which is apparently kind of almost like an IMAX style floor-to-ceiling screen, but we didn't see it in that one because it was on at the right time. But I'm not sure actually if it was projected. I thought actually one of the things I thought it was it looked a little bit soft, the film, or digital. I'm not sure which it was. I mean, to be honest, I kind of I love stuff shot on film. But you're not going to get any horror movies these days shot on film, I don't think. Very few horror movies, because certainly if you look at the films like Annabelle or Ouija and stuff like that, they're all made for $4 to $5 million, aren't they? And make back their budget many times over, especially a film like Annabelle, which I think we talked about last time, but it's made something like $250 million on a $5 million budget, so internationally. But it's obviously much easier and quicker and cheaper to shoot on digital, and horror movies tend to be cheaper productions. You don't get $100 million budget horror movie, do you? Unless it's a massive tentpole type Alien, Prometheus style thing. Which, if you ever get to that, they veer away from horror anyway. So I don't think we're ever going to see a time where horror movies are made on film in any great way again.
My problem would not be probably if it's shot in digital. What I hate about sort of the more modern horror films, like particularly Saw, is the color palette they choose to use, which is quite dour and. And once Saw became a success, every film had to have that look, which I really didn't like. The kind of look I'm talking about, where it's all sort of a monotone green or something.
Yeah. I think it's also with digital, because it's improving all the time, isn't it? That you're getting, the irony actually with digital is that you're getting low budget horror movies that look like they're shot on film now, because you're being able to shoot with better lenses. Then so they look, those kind of like they kind of proper lenses, so it gives a kind of filmic look anyway. So there's a kind of an irony there, that when you look back at the shot on video films from the late 80s into the 90s, and the kind of digitally shot films of the last 5-10 years ago, the quality of low budget films adds a much more of a glimmer or a layer of kind of, not professionality, but certainly they look more expensive than they are, perhaps. I mean, obviously, what do you think, Joseph and Nathan?
Yeah, as a filmmaker, Joseph, yeah.
Well, obviously I love film, but film is very expensive to shoot on. I'll probably never be able to afford to shoot on film. With a good wide lens and, shooting at 24 frames per second, and if you have a kind of a keen eye for, color grading, you can make digital look almost identical to film, if not identical. I don't knock digital like a lot of people, like Quentin Tarantino. He's got this like anti-digital stance. That's only because he can afford to shoot on film. People like Nathan and I, we'll never be able to afford that. So I think a lot of people shooting on digital, as long as they know what they're doing, I don't see a problem with it.
Fair enough. Okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Killer Clown. That's the good one to kick off with. Nathan, have you got one for us?
I do.
Okay.
It says, "Dear Nathan and supporting cast, I've loved recent episodes, particularly the Giallo double bill. I was curious if any of you have seen Don't Go to the Reunion. I don't recall anyone mentioning it during your recently seen segments. It's easily one of the best of the recent spate of micro-budget slashers, with a killer dispatching victims via methods directly lifted from other slasher movies. It feels lovingly tailored to slasher aficionados. I'd quite like to see you cover something ultra recent. There seems to be a surge of micro-budget, crowd-funded slasher films of late. I'm disappointed to have missed out on the recent discussion of yourselves featuring in a slasher movie, but had to chime in with what everyone is surely thinking. Erik would clearly be the Paris Hilton kill a la House of Blacks.
Yeah, oh yes.
That one person we suffer because we know seeing them meet their grisly demise will be so rewarding. That sounds very harsh. I do love Erik's contributions very dearly. He goes above and beyond with his research, but those Inga moments. Love you guys and everything you do. I hope we'll be seeing a Madman commentary for Vinegar Syndrome's Blu-ray release next year. That's from David Morton. David, thank you for saying Nathan and supporting cast. I think you're the first person who's ever said something like that.
Yeah.
Usually it's Justin and the rest.
Well, yes.
Didn't somebody review a commentary and they only talked about Justin's commentary?
Yes.
Well,
no, Fangoria said that, what was it? It was probably, what was the first one we did?
Savage Water and...
Savage Water. So, yeah, Savage Water's coming out with a Justin Kurzweil commentary. And I was like...
Well, I thought it was the Night Train to Terror.
Well, it's one of them where it just said it also includes Justin Kurzweil commentary.
Yeah.
Well,
and I've seen Don't Go to the Reunion. And I really liked it. I have some reservations about it, but I mean, I think that with the money that they had, they pulled off, a good movie. I mean, I would like to see what they could do, I guess, with a bigger budget too.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. And speaking of a Madman Blu-ray commentary, we are scheduled to do that. So.
Oh, and David Morton, have you watched The Night Before Easter? That's a good micro-budget slasher movie.
I wrote and directed it, and I disagree.
Well, quit bashing it.
Way, Mrs.
I actually had a friend of mine actually got scared by it.
Oh,
Really?
Yes. But he's a scaredy cat. Like, you can't even tell him a ghost story.
Oh, wait a minute. It was the one where, wasn't it the moment where Bonnie bumped into Michael? Is that the point where he got scared?
Well, no, I mean, like, the movie genuinely creeped him out.
The whole movie?
He sent me a video, and it was, it was like a week or so after we watched it, and he sent me a video, and I was watching it, and it was him at his storage unit. And he's like, okay, I'm here at my storage unit, and nobody's here. He's like, and I'm starting to get creeped out. And that's probably the biggest compliment I think I've gotten for that movie.
That's amusing.
Excellent. Right. Well, thank you very much. Good feedback. Joseph, do you want to?
I have a couple here, and they're very long. But this first one's from our good friend Kieran, who guested on the show a while back. I don't remember what episode it was, but I don't remember what we covered. But I do remember him being on the show. Anyway, he just writes in and says, choosing which host of the podcast would last longest in a slash movie is kind of impossible. One can easily write a separate scene for each host that would expose their Achilles heel, leading to their demise. Hiding in a kitchen closet from the slasher, Erik peeks through the shutter door and sees on a table right outside a chunky Kit Kat. Seeing that the coast is clear, he slowly opens the door and sticks his hand out towards the delicious prize. Running through the woods for his life from the slasher, Justin spies an open road. On the other side, an open vegan restaurant. Dashing towards civilization, Justin spies out of the corner of his eye, bathed in the full moonlight, a family of snails crossing the same road. Seeing that the coast is clear, he runs back to the edge of the woods to look for a sturdy leaf or two to transport the snails to safety.
I've been known to do that.
I have too.
I do that for turtles and snakes.
I do that all the time.
I do it for like frogs, snakes, and turtles, but I've never saved a snail. But anyway, he says, looking quickly for a place where the slasher won't see him, Joseph dives under a king-size bed. To his surprise, he finds, also hidden under the bed, Melissa McCarthy. Okay.
Who?
She's that fat woman who everyone thinks is funny, but she's not.
She is funny.
She was in Bridesmaids and Tammy.
She's funny to look at, I'll tell you that much. But anyway, he says he sees the slasher walk into the room. Fat woman, Melissa McCarthy, is still next to Joseph, and she's mugging for an imaginary camera. He has a decision to make. On the run from the slasher, Nathan decides to hide in plain sight by sneaking into a movie theater. He sits down as the previews finish in a packed house. He finds out to his horror that he is about to watch Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Oh my God. Kill me now.
He turns to leave, but he spies just walking in the door the slasher. Just kill me now, he says to himself. That's what you just said. Wow. The order you put these scenes together will determine when each host dies in the film. So what if these scenes don't sound like they're from the same movie? I can think of the following different slasher films for each host in which they turn out to be the murderer. Someone is killing the winners of pub quizzes in Dublin. A piece of paper next to each body has the name Inga on it.
Justin. I'm the red herring.
A local psychiatrist has been getting taunting phone calls from his gender-confused patient, Inga. But he dares not tell the police this news, lest they find out Inga's true identity. A successful and controversial writer of slasher movie books goes to Rome to promote his newest bestseller. Someone starts killing off people in the manner of the slasher films he writes. And hold on just a second. He writes about. An obsessed horror director, Rob Zombie, looks to be an early suspect. And when he dies violently, the cops assume the murders will stop. When they start up again, however, they must consider a suspect who's hiding in plain sight. A sleepy North Carolina town is celebrating the last night of a carnival, unaware that someone in a hearse wearing a motorcycle helmet is killing teenagers with a nail gun and spouting hilarious quips. A group of surviving teens goes to a graveyard for a night of frivolity, unaware that the slasher has followed them, and is someone that they know. A notorious movie theater that closed down 20 years ago after a showing of Voodoo Massacre ended in a real-life massacre of the audience is reopened by the filmmaker's son, an eccentric millionaire. One night at the theater is slumber party night, and a group of homophobic teenage girls comes by to have a fun time, only to be stalked by a slasher wearing a terrifying shoe rack. Okay. Happy Halloween, and I hope these film suggestions don't give you nightmares. Kieran, P.S. Congratulations, Nathan and Wes, on your nuptials. Just wondering, was the guest at your wedding John Melton? I think it would have been appropriate for him to have been there to sing Mine, All Mine. Kieran Edwards.
Wow, thank you, Kieran. Very good.
No, I'm afraid not, but thank you, Kieran. And Joseph, I did invite our friend Robert to the wedding, but he didn't show up.
Oh, that's a shame.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Kieran.
By the way, before we move on, a couple things. One, Erik still hasn't done his joke of the week.
I was just thinking about that, actually.
I know.
And two, according to this Robert fellow, Justin, Erik, and Nathan, you're all pedophiles.
What? If he knew me, he would know I'm quite the opposite.
I know. We had a big debate with this guy online, and he posted this research that basically said that most homosexuals are pedophiles. And that's why, we should never have equal rights or something like that. It was some nonsense. So Joseph and I just completely demolished this guy in a debate. And at the end, he wouldn't even respond anymore because he knew he'd lost.
And this is someone you invited to your wedding?
No, I was just kidding about that. Okay. I was just going to tell Joseph that because he's so against like gay marriage. He's so against it, and I was like, oh well, I'll invite you to mine.
So
Because his big thing is I don't believe in it, and I'm like, well, if you show up, I'll show you that it's real.
And yet he believes in the Bible.
Well,
Irony.
that's irony for you.
Word.
Okay. Well, on from that, I've got one here from who's this from? Okay. It says, "Hey guys, greetings from Boston. I just discovered your podcast via the Graduation Day Blu-ray, and I've become a huge fan. I heard Justin mention that he was a fan of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. So I was wondering if you guys planned on doing that one anytime soon."
That would be Erik, wouldn't it?
Well,
I think we're all big fans of Part 2, are we not?
But you're the one who's always talking about it.
I know.
Well, we're looking forward to doing that, aren't we? Said, I had a bootleg copy of it growing up and saw it many times. The homoerotic undertones completely flew over my head as a kid, but watching it now, I can't believe how blatant it is. I am straight, not that it matters. I know this is probably the most hated one in the series, but I think the 80s charm and classic Freddy lines make it one of the best. Anyways, keep up the good work. It's nice to know there are others enjoying slashers unironically these days. Larry Todisco? Yes. And P.S. I have an idea for a top 3. If you haven't already done it, how about the oddest side characters? 2 that spring to mind are Wildman from Final Exam and the Kiss Army guitar-playing kid in Home Sweet Home. I'm sure there are many more.
Mistake,
yes.
Mistake, yes.
I don't think... I would say that Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 isn't... I think when it came out, it was hated, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I think now, most people, myself included, kind of... I don't like the later, from Part 5 onwards of the Elm Street films until New Nightmare. I like New Nightmare, but I very rarely watch Part 5.
I think I'm the only person in the world who doesn't like New Nightmare at all.
But I think we can all agree that Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 is a bad movie, isn't it? It's not a good sequel to Nightmare on Elm Street. It's not a good film, but it's a very entertaining one.
I don't know if I'd agree with that.
I don't know if I'd agree with that either.
I think it's actually a well-made film.
Yeah, me too. I think that following Nightmare on Elm Street, I think that it doesn't quite fit, like Nightmare on Elm Street, I guess, it kind of feels like the odd stepchild. But
yeah, because if you watch those films, they all have somewhat of a continuity. Like it goes from Heather Langenkamp's character to the blonde girl to the blonde girl to Alice, and then but that one just has no continuity.
Yeah, exactly. And
well,
breaks
that's
all
what I
the
mean.
rules set up in the first one as well.
It's not a bad film, but it's not if you look at it, it would be like if you had Friday 13th and then Friday 13th Part 2 was full of fart jokes and parrots exploding. Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of what I mean about it not being a good sequel to a good film. It's an unexpected sequel where it takes it goes south very quickly towards self-parody, doesn't it? But actually, that is also the genius of the film.
Yeah.
So it's not certainly when I saw it when it first came out, I was thinking, what the fuck is this? It's not as bad as say Return of the Living Dead Part 2, which I think was fucking awful.
I kind of liked Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
Oh, I love Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
When I first saw it, I might like it more now, but when I first saw it, I thought, wow, this is awful compared to the first film. And that's how I felt about Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 when it first came out. I thought it was I enjoyed it, but I thought, wow, this is actually really bad compared to Nightmare on Elm Street, which was a really good horror movie. But it's still now, in retrospect, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 is a very, very entertaining film. So, but
I don't think we need to cover it now.
No. But anyway, but I think maybe we should pause for Erik's joke of the week.
Okay, are you all ready for this one? Now, before you say anything, in my defense, I only had to pen this joke whilst we were recording because I forgot to do it beforehand. Okay. Did you hear that the lead actor of Maniac didn't approve of the remake? He was spinelling in his grave.
God.
Erik, I think you've outdone yourself, haven't you?
I liked it. I thought it was funny.
We should do a special episode where we like a Christmas one at the end. We put all the jokes of the week together.
Oh, that'd be torturous.
That would, yes. And see if we can make a stand-up routine for Erik. But that was very considering you only had an hour or so to come up with a joke. Then that was pretty good.
I think it's the way he reads the punchlines is what's funny.
Yeah, it's a kind of mixture between embarrassment and bemusement and hopefulness. That people laugh. So, but anyway, thanks for
yes.
Thank you. Well, at least Erik took one for the team, which is most Saturday nights.
As you discovered, Justin.
Yes. Well, no, I'm not in that way, but certainly I did. I heard some stories that made my toes curl, but we'll keep those off the podcast for now.
Yes, please do.
Right. Okay. Well, who went first last time? Was it Erik?
I have another one here.
Okay.
This is from Chris in Toronto, and he says, have you ever considered starting up a Letterboxd account? It's a great way for fans of the podcast to track what you've been watching. It's also great for user reviews, lists, discussions, and just finding new things to watch in general. I use it to exchange recommendations with friends from the various online film communities I'm a part of. It's kind of like a film lover's Facebook. There are even a couple of Night Before Easter reviews on there. Anyway, keep it up, Chris in Toronto. Well,
interesting. I haven't used Letterboxd. Has anyone else?
No.
I've read a few of the reviews on there, but I've never used it.
Yeah, same here.
Well, we could look into it. I mean, we've got Facebook and we've got the Twitter account. Although, does anyone do the Twitter account?
I haven't updated it in forever. I need to.
Yeah.
I'm really bad with social media. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, I kind of run the Hysteria. I've got the Instagram account, and so I've been putting a lot of stuff on there. But it's unfortunate. There's only so many hours in a day, isn't it? Which is the difficult. But then if we get, it'll be a good way to maybe help promote the podcast because we're also on Stitcher now as well. Is a way to listen to us, which we don't say on the contact details. I don't think.
I'll need to update it. We have so many ways now. That's so outdated. I just need to update that, I guess.
Yeah. Actually, talking, Erik, you just liked a photo on Instagram, haven't you?
I did, yeah. I was just looking at your Instagram feed.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Picture of Humongous. You put your Humongous ones up on Instagram.
Well, if you want to see my Humongous one, then, and I've got quite a few of them. And
you said you weren't going to share those photos with anyone.
Well, I lied. So, I'm sharing some Humongous memorabilia on Instagram at the moment. So, check it out. Okay, well, did we answer the question? I can't remember.
Are we going to set up a Letterboxd account?
Oh, yes.
As we should. Yeah.
We should look into it.
We'll look into it.
Yes.
Which means in about 2 years we'll find out one set up.
Right.
Thank you for the feedback. And who was next?
Me.
Okay.
Well, I have that old one, Joseph. Remember the one that you sent me a long time ago and I couldn't find it? I found
it. Found it? Okay, good.
Yeah, it's from Creeperson.
Oh.
It says...
He's from Jello Chow Chow.
He is from Jello Chow Chow.
The first thing he says is, first off, I just want to say thanks for the Jello Chow Chow love on the show. That was awesome. Next, not all Americans feel the same way about dear old Mrs. Ward. That is in my top 5 all-time jelly. I absolutely love all the false endings. The wardrobe was a bit drab and at times a little too hippie, but other than that, I think it is Martino's best Jello. Great show, guys. Keep up the good work. Creeperson.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Mr. Creeperson. And Jello Chow Chow. I just listened to, I'm halfway through their latest episode. For the life of me, I can't remember what it was. What the hell was it on?
I will look for you.
God, how embarrassing. So I do apologise, but I do enjoy. So they did Frenzy recently. It's My Dear Killer.
Killer. Yes, I saw them.
Yeah, so which is it's a very entertaining podcast. So it would be it's definitely worth if you've got an interest in Giallo, and as I say, they're going to be covering Happy Birthday to Me in a few weeks' time. I think it's worth tuning in for. So thank you, Mr. Cooper.
I hope they cover Pieces.
Yes.
I mean, it's black gloves, fedora. Yeah.
European.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
Who's peeing?
European.
Oh, right.
I need to.
Joseph, if you got another one for us.
Yeah, just one more. This is from our good friend, Tosca Topsocks.
Hey.
Yay!
We always have to
favorite
yay.
socks.
Yeah, we always have to yay when we hear his name. I don't think I remember his real name. I think it's Kevin, maybe. I don't know. But he says, "Hi all. It's been ages since I've been in touch with you guys. You may recall that I moved house this year, and with trying to get straight, yeah, right, after my move in with work, things have been a little hectic. That's not to say I haven't been keeping up with you guys, as I still listen to the podcast every chance I get. The last few have been superb, but I am still a little behind and halfway through the Silent Rage episode. A shout out to Justin, who I saw on the Video Nasties 2 discs. This was a fantastic effort from all involved, and whilst it has most resonance with UK viewers, I would urge all of your listeners to check out this marvelous documentary that records a very dark and frightening time in British history. You cannot help but shout at the screen in some segments, and we can only be grateful that this type of ridiculous censorship is more or less gone from our shores. It actually got me thinking, because some of the films that had the potential to be removed from shelves were so ridiculous, you cannot even fathom what was going through the minds of the people who created this list of potentially harmful titles. Oh, please. It is truly amazing how far we've come. A mere 30 years ago, things like Child's Play, Extra, or The Evil Dead were classed as a danger to the populace, whereas now we have shows such as The Walking Dead, American Horror Story, and Hannibal showing some really out-there stuff. Can you imagine how these shows would have been received by John Trevelyan of the BBFC back in the day? The mind boggles. Did I pronounce that right?
It's something like that, yes. Yeah, pretty good.
Okay. Anyway. Speaking of the above, my recently seen encompasses the latest seasons of all three, and I love them all. Long may they reign. Although I have to say I would like to see Rick and Daryl get their shirts off a bit more in The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. There is something hot about a sexy, sweaty man being chased by the undead, or is that just me? Probably just, well, I'm not going to speak for everyone else, but yeah. Anyway, I'm just about to go and get ready for my Halloween night out, so you guys take it easy and stay scary. Love, Tosca Topsocks.
Hey, well, thank you, Tosca. That was, yes, it was, that time was very scary. I think it's, never say never. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that kind of time again. Or in certain, because they're still cutting, aren't they? Okay.
They're still
What?
A classic.
Yeah.
You know what happens when that happens? You have to play the clip.
It's going to be a classic. I want to know who was doing the blah 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 before I said classic. It was either Erik or Joseph.
It was Justin. I think.
Justin.
Was it you, Justin?
It may have been. Yes, it was.
Okay.
So it's the wonders of Skype. But what I was saying was I was wondering, what do you think? Cut or uncut, Erik?
Uncut.
Okay. But talking about films, of course, and whether or not, films like, famously, the Human Centipede 2 was completely cut to ribbons in the UK. So they are still cutting films.
Should have just flushed that down the toilet.
Well, I haven't seen it.
What you call it? A Serbian film as well was cut to ribbons here as well.
Yeah,
hey,
but
I like that movie.
Yeah, but they've kind of, certainly back in the day, I mean, there was a moral panic, but moral panics have a tendency to come round again. Mm-hmm. So, there was, back in the day, they were talking about passing a law, so you couldn't have any film for adults, i.e. not pornography, but any film like an 18 certificate film on video in the UK was what was backed as nearly became law, which meant that all horror movies would have been banned. I mean, thankfully that didn't happen, but it kind of puts it into stark relief about how scary that time was for horror movie fans. But no, thank you, Tosca, and I hope you did get chased by some shirtless men on Halloween night, but let us know. So, I have another one here. It says, "Hello all, last time I made numerous under the influence typos." So it sounds like my kind of person here. So I'm writing this time with great care and sobriety. I have a question which hopefully warrant a short discussion. Do you think there's ever been a performance in a slasher which genuinely deserved an Oscar nomination? the snobbery towards horror didn't exist. I know we are not there for performances, but considering how many you've seen and know so thoroughly, there must be some standouts you'd instinctively remember. Yes, Sigourney Weaver was nominated for Aliens, which you've mentioned several times, but of course this would be under the category of action. Kathy Bates won for Misery, so whilst not a slasher, proves that horror can get recognised when truly deserved. I would possibly have considered the highly underrated Margot Kidder for a supporting nod in Black Christmas. Also, Virginia Madsen is exceptional in Candyman. To my opinion, these are not just performances that are better than average for a horror film, but are great performances in cinema full stop. I fully realise it is entirely subjective, and if I ever missed the top 3 best slasher performances, then you've probably covered this in a way. However, I'd be fascinated to know your thoughts. Much love to you all, and thank you for making my gloomy tube ride so much more fun. Mike Tomlinson from London. So that's an interesting question, isn't it? What do you guys think?
Well, it's interesting, especially in the light of the film we've just covered.
Yes, yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
I would say, certainly not an Oscar-winning film, but Jamie Lee Curtis in Prom Night, I thought she was brilliant in it, particularly the end, the final few minutes. I think it shines through that she's a top-quality actress. No?
Yeah, no, I think so.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of fine performances.
Is he talking about slashers or horror in general? Because I know
slashers.
Sissy Spacek I think she was nominated for Carrie, but that's certainly an Oscar-worthy performance.
Jodie Foster won for
Silence of the Lambs. Yeah.
But again, I guess, I mean, there is that whole snobbery thing, isn't there? Because you don't, for a film like Hell Night or Friday the 13th, you're never going to get an Oscar nod, even if you get good performances. Because I thought, I mean, talk of Hell Night, I thought Linda Blair was really good in that. But you're never going to get an Oscar nod for that kind of film. But partly because it's not a major studio film as well, because all of those films that have been mentioned, they've all been major studio films, that not pickups like Friday the 13th, but films that the studios made and can probably pay quite a lot of money to promote to the Academy. I'm not sure how that all works actually, but I know there's lots of kind of hoo-ha, isn't there, ahead of the awards, of like for your consideration type thing. So, but yeah, I mean, there's lots of very bad performances in slasher movies, but there's lots of very good ones as well, isn't there?
You're not going to pick Joe Spinell's mother for
that would be
Oscar?
I would have loved to have seen her Oscar acceptance speech.
Yeah.
I think the actress in High Tension did really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The main one, she was really good.
It's kind of there is a snobbery, and it's a hangover from the way that horror films are regarded by Hollywood and people and critics. That for a long time, the horror was seen as a one step above or below pornography, and I think that translates into it's seen as a juvenile genre. It's seen as something that only it is done to make money, and is quite cynically done. But of course, what people forget is all movies are made to make money. Unless you're making an art house movie, every single Hollywood film is greenlit because they think it's got a chance of making money. They're not done
James Bond.
Exactly. The James Bond films, they're kind of cynical rehashes, aren't they? Over and over and over again. I mean, they're fun for what they are, and like Star
no,
Wars,
they used to be fun.
Yeah.
Or the myriad of superhero films coming out constantly.
Yeah. I mean, that's also. I saw that Marvel have got their schedule for the next 5 years or something of films that they're going to be making. So it literally is a conveyor belt of, and so horror is always accused of being that the cynical cash grabs, but really at the end of the day, it's. You're getting films, although I didn't love it, The Babadook is an original take on a type of film, far more original than any of the kind of dull superhero movies they're churning out by the dozen every year.
And the superhero movies that they're churning out, like, they're such downers, like, I don't know. It just feels like they take themselves way too seriously for a superhero movie. I prefer the campy ones.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin, that was about as campy as it gets, wasn't it? But that was a much more fun film than Christopher Nolan Batman films, which look great, but they're kind of they're joyless, aren't they?
Yes, very joyless. See, that's one reason I like the Iron Man movie, because it is campy, and I don't think they take it too serious.
Well, I like the X-Men movies are quite good.
Yeah, I do like the X-Men
them.
movies too.
Yeah, they're good because they're actually quite exciting, quite intelligent, and quite quirky. But a lot of I find a lot of the superhero movies pretty interchangeable and pretty,
I think as far as the Batman films, the Christopher Nolan ones, I think the idea of making a serious Batman film was good for one movie, but not for three.
Mm. I mean, yeah. I think it's because the original Batman was quite serious, wasn't it? The very original, it wasn't the 60s campy version, but that's what I grew up with. It's shown all the way through the 70s and 80s, and so it's that's what I grew up with, and that's what I knew of Batman. And it's just something a little bit of tongue in cheek, something a little bit of humour, but it's so it is what it is. But yeah, unfortunately, coming back to the horror movies, slash movies specifically. I mean, if horror movies are seen at one step above or below pornography, then slash movies are seen as the least reputable of all horror subgenres. And that's what it is. But so I can never see the Academy ever rewarding a low budget slash movie.
Well, just to go back to his original question, I think Bob DeSimone as Billy should have won an Oscar.
I was going to say...
Lana should have won them.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say Ronnie Blakely.
For God's sake. No, we're not having this argument. We're not having this argument again, Nathan.
You're all wrong.
She's awful.
She's awful in that film. She was good in Nashville, wasn't she? I think that's what she won. She won the Oscar for it, or she...
Yeah, see, and that's what I was going to leech onto, is that she actually did win something for previous.
Mm.
But see, to me, the scene where she actually gives the speech about what happened to Freddie, I thought that scene was so well done.
Well, if there was an award for reading card cues when you've had a few drinks of vodka, then she'd be a shoo-in.
Yeah.
To be serious, I think Marilyn Burns in the original TCM.
Yeah, exactly. That would be a really good.
She was believable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jamie Lee Curtis in the original Halloween, or any of the main female characters in that, or Donald Pleasance even.
And you guys might probably going to think I'm joking about this, but I'm really not. But I thought Shelley Duvall was really good in The Shining.
Oh, I think she's excellent in The Shining, yeah.
And people bash her all the time because of her looks, but I'm like, I thought she was perfect in that movie.
I thought she was fantastic. I think that really believable kind of meltdown.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the scene where she's, going through his pages of the book he's been writing, and of course all the pages say, the same thing, all work and no play. And, the look on her face when she realizes, that her husband's basically insane. I'm like, it's very believable.
I like the bit where she locks him in the freezer, and then she says, chili would be good tonight.
I think that was Marge. Don't you love the fact that Marge has enough strength to carry Homer over her shoulder?
Yeah. The shinning.
The shinning, yes. Okay, well, thank you, Mike Tomlinson. That was great. So we've had obviously that's 3 weeks worth of feedback, but
I've got one more.
Well, sorry, Erik.
Yeah. This is from Aussie Andy. He says, "Hey guys, you have a new fan in Australia. I heard about you guys in the latest episode of Night of the Living podcast, and I'm slowly working through your old podcasts and only just finished the episode about Friday the 13th Part 2. And I have to agree, I love that movie. Actually, I love all the Friday movies, including Jason X and the Freddy Jason crossover. Hell, I'm such a fan, I have Jason's hockey mask tattooed on my knee. See attached picture." Well, Joseph, I assume you have the attached picture. I'm loving the podcast and I'm enjoying catching up on the old episodes, and the fact that so far you've covered the movies I watched in the 80s, and your first episode being Happy Birthday to Me may have been one of the very first horror films I saw at the young age of 11 back in 1981. Yeah, I am that old. Keep up the great shows. You're not as old as Justin. Keep up the great shows, and you are now helping me make my days at work a lot better. Thanks, Aussie Andy. Well, thank you, Aussie Andy.
Aussie. Yeah, I've listened to Night of the Living podcast a number of times. It's a fun podcast, but be curious what they said about us.
Why?
Well, it'd be nice to know.
Sorry. I just thought you were saying that with suspicion.
No. I mean, I'd be curious what they said that must have been a recommendation for Ozzy to check us out. But it's always curious because it'd be great to have, well, not to have if we went to war with another podcast. Not that I was saying we'd go to war with them, but
I think we've already done that.
Did we?
Yeah, we went to war like as a mini war with Scream Queens.
Oh, we did.
Yes. Well, we're friends again now.
Nice Living Podcast on episode 388.
I know.
Wow.
Oh, gosh. What are we on?
89.
This is 89.
Mm-hmm.
89.
Oh, okay.
So we're 300 behind.
So we'll get there in about 50 years.
Yeah.
Maybe for all the breaks Erik takes.
We have a plan.
Justin took a break as well. We're okay now,
plan,
I think,
don't we? Mm.
We're back on track.
We're okay for the moment, aren't we? We've got a plan to keep things more regular, haven't we? Erik's going to take prunes.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Erik's taking his oats and bran.
Yeah.
Fiber.
So, but is that everything? Oh, sorry. I keep on talking over Erik. What were you trying to say?
I said prunes.
Prunes, good.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
As a battle cry to end the show with. Do we have anything else, any more feedback, or is that us done?
That's all I have anyway.
Okay, right. Well, next time, Joseph, tell us where you're going to take us on a trip to where?
Our next pick will be Tobe Hooper's The Funhouse.
Yes.
It is back in August. I was helping the Dismembering Christmas guys raise funds for their film, so I offered a pick. If you pledged to their film, you could pick a movie for us to cover, and Gregory Burkhart picked The Funhouse, so we're going to cover that next.
Yeah, and we don't have to do any research either because Justin has done already because he did a commentary track for it in the UK.
Yeah. Yes, but you will have to do a bit.
No,
so Justin, you could do all the work, and I'll just take a nap. I'll just take a nap.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we should be back in a couple of weeks with that. But what are we going to play out with, Erik?
Oh yes, of course. It's the intro music to the last horror film, which is the fantastic Depeche Mode. We had a conversation about Depeche Mode being goth or not when I met you.
No.
Yeah,
no,
Justin says no as well.
Well, I say no, but they were on the that kind of Goth Britannia or whatever it was.
Goth at the BBC. Yeah,
Goth at the BBC. They had Depeche Mode, which I didn't really understand, but
I would
certainly not their earlier stuff.
I would call them Euro trash, not goth.
Not Euro trash. Well, this song
that's an endearing term, actually.
Oh,
this song is kind of Euro trashy because it was from the very first album.
Because I do love Depeche Mode.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, well, we're going to play out with that, and thank you for listening to the Hysteria Continues. We will be back next time with a trip to the Funhouse. So say goodbye to the good people.
Goodbye, good people.
Good people.
Bye.
Bye.